Hello everyone, here we are, Robin the Sudoku Guy with tutorial number 75, and this is an exciting tutorial. It's one of the most interesting tutorials I think I've ever done. And it's all about the skyscraper pattern. I want to say a big thank you to Sudoku Swami, because he was the one that introduced me to a new way of looking at a skyscraper using strong, weak and strong links, 3 links of an X chain. Now this, when I did this about 7 years ago, I've learned a lot since that time, so this is going to be much better, I'm sure. And by the end of this tutorial, I know you'll be able to understand what to do with a skyscraper and how to look for it too. So here we go. Here's the structure of the skyscraper. 2 strong links, conjugate pairs, parallel to each other and with the ends in 4 separate blocks. One of the 2 ends of the strong links is the base of the skyscraper, while the other 2 ends of the strong links are in different rows or columns and make a slanted roof. And the most important feature of this type of skyscraper structure is it is one of the 3 types of X chains with only 3 links, a strong link, a weak link and a strong link. Let's have a look at this diagram. I've got a legend over here that shows you what each color represents. The strong links are the vertical, the walls of the building, okay, of the skyscraper. The weak link is the blue line here. We know it's a weak link because there's other 8s along here. The black is the roof of the skyscraper, slanted, and that's often the case these days. And the roof is made up of, it involves 2 rows. Okay, and finally the green lines, which are the diagonals, as if this was an X-wing. Sounds complicated, doesn't it? However, let me show you how it works very briefly. There are 2 types of ways in which we can eliminate small numbers. And there are sometimes it would be 6, 7 or 8 little numbers you can get rid of, which is fantastic. Okay, here we are. Have a look at this. One type is the skyscraper roof, which is this section here. And the other type of elimination is on the skyscraper building using X-wing diagonals. Okay, let me just demonstrate. First of all, these are the corners of the roof, and they are also the beginning and the ends of the X chain. These 2 8s here can see that 8, the top of that corner of the building. These 2 8s can, because it's in the same row. These 2 8s can see this 8 because it's in the same block. These 2 8s can see this 8 and that 8, both corners of the top of the building, and that means we can eliminate those 2 8s. Boomity boom, 2 gone already. Now let's look at these 8s here. These 8s can see that 8 because it's in the same row, and these 8s can see that 8 because it's in the same block. And because of that, we can get rid of that 8 and that 8. So we've now already got rid of 4 8s. Now let's go to the other way of eliminating little numbers in the skyscraper. These 2 crosses represent the corners of, in a way, a type of X-wing. And the rules are the same. In an X-wing, if this becomes a real 8, that's going to become a real 8. And if this becomes a real 8, that can't be a real 8. So let's assume that this becomes a real 8. That means that that 8 can go, this 8 can go, this 8 can go, and that 8 can go. Well, so how many have we got rid of now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's one more thing. Remember, in a X-wing, if this is an 8, that becomes an 8. If this is not an 8, then that is not an 8. So moving right along, you can get rid of that one too. So now what have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little numbers removed. Isn't that fantastic? Let's have a look at another clip. Well, here we are with another example. And here we found a skyscraper using the little number 9. If you look at it very quickly again, the red lines are the strong links or conjugate pairs. There's only 2 9s in this column. There's only 2 9s in that column. So that makes them a strong link. We have a strong link down to here, a weak link over here because there's an extra line along this row, and a strong link there. The corners of the skyscraper roof are in fact the beginning and the ends of the link, the X chain. Now, let's go through the 2 ways to eliminate little numbers. First of all, we can take the roof. We'll start with the roof. Always start with the roof. The roof involves these 2 rows. See that row there and that row there. And we take this number 9 here and we say that 9 can see that 9. It can see the top of the building that way because it's in the same row. This 9 can see the top of the building on the other side because it's in the same block. So we can remove that 9. Boom, boom. Let's go across here now. Take this 9 here. It can see this corner of the building. It can also see that corner of the building. You can see both corners of the building, and you can see this one because it's in the same block. So we can get rid of that 9. Okay, now we didn't get rid of as many as we did in the last example, because every time you see a skyscraper, sometimes you get rid of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 or more. However, now let's look at the other way of looking at the building in total. Just for argument's sake, I'm going to say this. Let's say this became a real 9 once you went on with the puzzle. If that's a real 9, this 9 cannot be a 9. That 9 cannot be a 9. And because we have the diagonals of an X-wing, if this is a real 9, that stays a real 9. But this 9 here can be eliminated because it's the diagonal of these 2 lines here. So that's another example. Don't go away, there's lots more to show you. For one thing I want to show you is this. This skyscraper pattern comes in many different forms, and it's a matter of practice. The more practice you have, the better. Let me show you this. Trapezoid is another name for this, but here is what you've got. Let me see now. This is what you've got there now. See that? But you can also have it this way. You can also have it this way. You can also have it this way. You can also have it upside down this way. And you can have it this way upside down. You can also have it this way, and you can have it this way. So all those examples of ways in which you can discover and look for a skyscraper. Don't go away. Here's another clip. Here, in this example, we've got it on its side, in this shape. Here is the roof, slanting here, from here to here. The end points of the X chain are here and we're using the number 6 in this case. Now, the strong links are this way, and this is the weak link here. And these will be the crosses that we use for the X-wing type elimination. So with that in mind, let's see if we can work this one out. If we'll look at the columns this time, and notice that the columns are not next door to each other, they are separated, but we still have the corners in 4 different blocks. So this will still work. So that's why I want to show you several examples of these skyscrapers, because there's always something to learn. You never know You can pick up little clues too, so don't go away. Here we go with the calculation. Let's take this 6 here. Whoops. I'll start here. Let's take this 6. I've already crossed it out. That has to go because you can see that one, that end of the corner of the roof. You can also see this corner of the roof. So we get rid of that 6. Now let's go to these 6s over here. These two 6s can see this 6 because they're in the same block, but they can also see this 6 because it's the corner of the building. So therefore we can get rid of those 6s and those two 6s. Now that's the first elimination, using the roof. The second elimination is when we use the diagonals. Just for argument's sake, let's say that this 6 became a real 6, this one here. What that means is that because it's a conjugate pair, if this became a real 6, this, I'll make it a big 6 so you understand. If this became a real 6, this 6 goes and you get a 7. Okay? If this was a real 6, that has to be a real 6. So this becomes the real 6 up in here. Okay? Whoops. That's supposed to be a 6. Now, that means if that's a real 6, because this is a conjugate pair and or a strong link, that 6 cannot be a 6, so we can get rid of that 6. And so on. Now, because this 6, it was part of the weak link, because that became a big 6, this 6 can go as well. So we got rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6s this time. Don't go away, because each one I show you, there's something new about it. Here's a skyscraper upside down. Here are the conjugate pairs, or the strong links. Here's the weak link, because there's lots of 3s along there. Here's the roof, and these are the corners of the roof. It works the same way. So now let's look at the corners of the roof first. Always do that first. This 3 here can see this corner of the roof because it's in the same row, and this is important, it's in a different block. You must know that. Now this 3 can also see this corner of the roof, but it's okay because it's in the same block on a different row. So if that's the case, we can get rid of this 3. Go on, kaput, patatata. Now let's look at these two 3s in here. These two 3s can see this 3 because it's in the same row, but it's in a different block. These two 3s can also see this one because it's in the same block and in a different row. Very important to know that. So we can get rid of that 3 and we can get rid of that 3. Now let's talk about this 3. Yeah, this one we cannot eliminate. We cannot remove that. Let me show you why. I was telling you that this 3 here can see this 3 on the same row, but it sees the corner of the roof, and it's in another block. Whereas this 3 sees this 3, it's in another row, but it's in the same block. That's important. And this 3 here, it cannot see this 3 because it's in the same block. And this 3 cannot see this 3 because it's in another block. And so we can leave that 3 alone. Now let's look at the diagonals as if it was an X-wing. If this became a real 3, that becomes a real 3. If it did, okay, so let's say, just for argument's sake, it became a real 3, and I'm going to do it in green. So you can see this is all part of the X-wing system. Let's say that became a 3. Therefore, this becomes a 3. And if that becomes a 3, that 3 can go, that 3 can go, and that 3 can go. So that's it for this one. There's more coming. You know, folks, every time I show you another example of a skyscraper, there's always extra little tricks to show you. Watch this one. Here we go. It's quite a small, and I've got to say a big thank you to Huey, 187, I think. I've taken part of his puzzle. Thanks very much, Huey. I appreciate it very much. I wish to acknowledge you for that. But this is just part of one of his puzzles. But the fascinating thing about this one is this. Let's go through the procedures again. These are the tops, the ends of the X chain, or the top of the skyscraper. Here is your, we're using 5s. This is your weak link. These are your strong links. The only places you'll see 5s in this row and in this row. So, and this is your roof. Now, let's take the roof. Take this 5 here. That 5 can see the top of the roof here. It can also, because it's in the same column, that 5 can see that this top of this roof, the top of the roof on here, so that 5 can go. Okay, so let's get rid of it. I'm going to use the green this time just for fun. Now, let's go on to a next step. What about the 5s down in here? See this 5 here? This 5 can see that 5 because it's in the same column. This 5 can see that 5 because it's in the same block. And it's also, of course, we're looking purely at the ends of the chain, the corners of the roof. So this 5 can go. And you may say, what about this 5? Well, it can't see both, like I did with the 3 last time. Now, having done that, we've got rid of 2 5s. Now let's look at the diagonal cross here. I'm going to say this. This one here has to be a 5, because with that 5 gone, there's no other place to put a 5 in this block. Woo! So I'll just make this into a 5, and I want you to see what happens. If that's a 5, this cannot be a 5. So that goes. Well, I should have crossed it out. Okay, that's gone. This 5 means that this becomes a big 5, so I can get rid of all those little numbers and put a big 5 in there. There we go. Because that's the rule, the diagonal. This 5 is gone. Now this 5 has to go. We can cross out that 5 and you're left with a 4. If you're left there, if this is left with a 4, this 5 is already gone. That has to become the 5. You see how that worked? Amazing. Recognizing that the corner had to be a 5 meant that we can get rid of this 5, we can get rid of that 5, and it leads to this 5, and it leads to this 5. Isn't that fascinating? The other night, I found this, which was part of the roof of a skyscraper. So I'm just going to show you the roof because it's really interesting, amazing actually. In fact, try and imagine now, this could be an upside down skyscraper with the sides of the walls going up this way, or it could be with the walls coming down this way. It doesn't matter, it's still going to work fine. When I first look at that, I immediately see that there is a magic pair 1, 2 here, which means that if there's any other 1, 2 along this row, they can be removed, which means we can remove that 1 there. Got that upon that 1 there. Anyway, I'm not going to take it away right now because in this particular clip, it's amazing. I'm going to show you there's 2 ways of getting rid of that 1. Using the rooftop now, if I look at this number, we're going to use 5 for this. If you take these 5s here, these 5s can see this 5, which is the top corner of the skyscraper, and these 5s can also see this top of the skyscraper, corner of the skyscraper and the roof. So that means that if they can see that it's in the same row, and take note, it's not only in the same row, but it's not in the same block, it's in a different block altogether. And these fives can see, or this 5, it's in the same block, then we can get rid of these 5s, okay? Kaput, 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 gone, done. Now what does this do? That gives us a 1-3 matching pair. Now if you go to my lesson, I believe 11, or is it 6? Well, no, it's 11. Lesson 11, it basically teaches you that if you have a matching pair, any other 1 and 3 along this row or in this block can be removed. So once again, there's another reason for getting rid of that 1. So there's 2 reasons. Now that we have a 1-3 here, let's look along this row to see if there's any 1 or 3. Yes, there is. There's a 3 here. We can get rid of this one, and I'm just going to cross them out this way because then you'll be able to see what happens. And if we continue on here, we get a 3 here. We can get rid of that one as well. Now, what's the ramification of that? Well, this becomes a big 6. I'll make it a big 6. And if this becomes a big 6, this goes, and this becomes a big 3. Now, if that's a big 3 looking along here, we can get rid of this 3 here, and we've now got another big 6. Now, if we have a big 6 here, this 6 is in the same column, this 6 can go, and we're left with a big 2. Now that we have a big 2, we can get rid of that 2, which gives us a 5 here. But before going on and doing that, let me show you this side of the roof. This 5 here can see that 5, that corner of the roof, and this 5 can see this corner of the roof. So this 5 can go, and you're left with a big 4. Now, we could have also said goodbye to that 5, because guess what? We've got a matching pair over here. And if that's a matching pair, that 5 means that this 5 goes again. So there's another reason why we had to get rid of that 5. So we finished up with a 4. Now, let's go back to this one here. We can now go a step further. This 2 means that that 2 goes, and this becomes a big 5. If that becomes a big 5, and over here we know from our previous experience with 3 links, a strong, weak, strong, that this is a 5 on the top of a skyscraper. That cannot be a 5, so this becomes a 9, and this now becomes a 5. Isn't that fantastic? Just those 2 little techniques enable us to get all of those numbers. Wasn't that neat? Here we look at a puzzle, and again I'm going to give an acknowledgement to Sudoku Swami for this one, because I found a fascinating feature to this one. The question has come up, how do you spot a skyscraper? It's not easy, and it takes practice. Let me give you some clues. Start at 1 and go through to 9. Now, there's a lot of iPad and apps and so on the computer online today where you can just press a button and there's all the 1s. Then you do all the 2s and all the 3s and so on. That makes it easier to look for a parallel set of strong links. Okay? Now, when you're looking for strong links, you're looking for parallel ones where the one set of ends is in fact in the same row or column, the others are not, but the key is that each end of those 2 strong links must be in a different block. Have a look at this, you can see this. We've got parallel strong links. Each point of the top of the skyscraper is in a different block, and down here there's in a different block as well. That's what you're looking for. Now, If you are a person who doesn't have that access to an app that can do all those numbers for you, you're stuck with, let's say you're the person with a book, or you're using the newspaper or a magazine. Now you're going to have to do your own 1 to 9. And this is my suggestion. You look at the puzzle and you take number ones and you go across to see if there's any row that's only got 2 ones. Then you do the columns. You go up and down to see how many ones there are, to see if there's only a column that's only got 2 ones. Then you look to see if they're parallel, and if there's 2 sets in two columns, just make sure that the base is on the same row or column. That sounds complicated, doesn't it? But you will find that with a lot of practice, you start to look for those. I have found over the years that as you get to a certain level in the difficulty of a puzzle, you start to automatically look for things like that, like X-wings, like skyscrapers, like 2-string kites, and all those sort of patterns. So without how to do, let me just quickly look at this puzzle. It is a puzzle which has got some unique features to it again. Let's take the roof first. If you look at the roof here, we have we're going to use 3s. 3, 3, 3, 3. There's your 4 3s that we're going to work with. And take to the roof, we've got in the roof here on this row, we're using this row and we're going to use that row. This 3 here can see that corner of the skyscraper because it's in the same row. This 3 can see this corner of the skyscraper, can see both corners because it's in the same block. So we can get rid of that 3, and what does that do? That gives us a 4. I'm going to do it in red just so that you can see what happens. If that 4 is a real 4, this becomes a real 3, and that's what we're going to have, I'm afraid, and you'll see why. But let me say, that 4 will make this a 1, okay, and that becomes a 1, this becomes an 8, this becomes a 6, and so on. Boom, 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 boom. Now, let's do another number, if there is another number. No, that's all we had on that particular occasion. This 3 here can see that 3, that corner, and you can also see this corner, so that 3 can be removed. Okay? Now, I mentioned that because we got rid of that 3, this is the only place in this block where a 3 can go. So that means that this becomes the big 3. Now, what's the ramification of that? Well, first of all, this big 3 means that this 3 goes, get rid of that 3, or I'll put it in there and cross it off so you can see what I've done. This 3 goes, and we get a 4. And if we get a 4, we can now, because this is in that same row, we can get rid of that 4. Now, if we have a 3 here, using the X-wing system, this will have to be a 3. Okay, remember the diagonal? We'll put that 3 in there. Now, what is the ramification of that? This 3 means that that 3 goes, that 3 goes, and that 3 goes. Look at all the eliminations we've had. Isn't that exciting? It's not the end yet. Because this is not a 3, and that is a 3, because we know that if that's a 3, this cannot be a 3, so that 3 goes as well. And we're left, as a result, in this block with a big 3. Well, it can go on and on and on and on, but I just wanted to show you how, when you've got this situation here, well, look at all the things that we could do to eliminate. That's just a touch. Now, let me tell you about the last part of this tutorial. And before doing that, I just want to make one quick announcement. I'm now, because of COVID, offering lessons, one-on-one lessons. If you want to get a private lesson, you go to my website, sudokuguy.com, and in the contact area you can write me an email if you wish. It's $50 US for an hour. So, and by the way, before I forget, next tutorial after this is a fun tutorial, much easier to understand, but it's for all players, including beginners as well as advanced players. Okay? So, let's go now to the final puzzle, which I'm going to suggest to you something special. Okay? Hey, here we are with our final clip, and this time you're going to have a bit of fun because I'd like to see if you can spot a skyscraper. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to look at that, and after that I'm going to give you a clue, then I'll give you a few more seconds, and then we'll show you where it is. Okay? Here we go. I'm timing it now. Any luck? If you didn't find them, don't feel badly. It takes practice. Here's your clue. It's the little number 8. See if you can find it now. 2 parallel strong links with each end in a different block. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. This is where they are. See if you got it right. Okay, the first one, it's going to be over on this direction. We start out with a strong link here with my wobbly line. And here is the next one. It's down here. It's a strong link here, just with 2 cells there. But you notice that each of them are in different blocks. So now we're going to look for, once we've got these 2 ends lined up in the same column, now the question comes, what about the weak link? Well, if you look at this carefully, this is an interesting situation. It doesn't happen very often, but just in case it does, you know what to do. Remember me talking earlier about a surrogate weak links? Well, here is one. In this case, going from here to here, and I'll draw it in for you. That is your weak link. Strong, weak, strong, or strong, weak, strong. And this is actually a strong link, but we can use it as a weak link. If you're not sure what I'm meaning by that, go back on the video on this tutorial and I cover all that then. So now we just take the red one and we're going to highlight the top of the skyscraper. Here's one of them. And here's the other one. Fine. Now, having done that, what's the next step? Well, we look, let's say, at an 8. Look at if there's any 8 in this block that can see that 8 and that 8. Well, there are 2. There's this one, there's this one, and there's this one. So we got rid of 2 right there, but we can't get rid of that one because that can't see both ends of the chain, the X chain, or the top of the skyscraper. Just to let you know, here's the roof. I'll mark that in for you. Okay, the roof comes down to here. Okay. Now, we did this lot of 8s. Now what about going down to this part here? These 2 8s here can see that 8. So those and these 2 8s can also see that 8. These 2 8s can see this 8 because they're in the same block. These 2 8s can see that 8 because they are in the same column. So we can get rid of those 2 8s. So we got rid of 4 now. Now, here's something that you may notice, but if you look carefully, this 8 here has to become an 8 because it's the only 8 left in that block. This has happened before, hasn't it? Recognizing that, spotting that is very valuable because it tells you now if that's an 8, this is also an 8, and I'll go over it so you can see what is done, because that's the opposite side of the X-wing. Okay, if this becomes a real 8, because it has to, because that's the only place an 8 can go in this block. Therefore, the kitty corner up over here, that has to become an 8, which means that this becomes a 7. This becomes now the real 8, and so on. All kinds of things start to happen once you've got that. Now, because that cannot be an 8, this 8 here goes, and it becomes a 3. Well, now that's it for today. I just wanted to say thank you for hanging in there through all these examples, and all the best looking for the skyscraper. Bye for now.